Buenas tardes. Bueno, yo soy Àngels Miralda, soy cocomisaria de la Bienal Contemporánea y bueno, este evento se hace en el marco de esta Bienal y solo para un poco de organización quería preguntar, porque este evento es bilingüe, así que quería preguntar si hay alguien que no entiende inglés. And is there anyone here that doesn't understand Spanish? Vale, perfecto. Así que hoy vamos a ver 3 películas del artista y cineasta Lamia Joreige, que es una artista libanesa que forma parte de la Bienal Contemporánea. Y abajo pueden ver su obra Tiempos inciertos, escenas para un esquema, que es una obra de este año que se produjo sobre una investigación que ha hecho durante varios años sobre la historia de los últimos años del Imperio Otomano. Y estas 3 películas nos van a dar mucha más información sobre sus obras previas, que son de del 2006, de 2007, y así que antes de empezar su investigación actual. Vamos a empezar con la película A Journey, que es en francés, con subtítulos en inglés, y habla sobre su historia familiar, y seguido de The River, y ahora me tengo que recordar, The River y Noches y Nights and Days, Noches y días y El río, que son ensayos fílmicos más abstractos, visuales, y que también tienen letras en inglés. Y bueno, Lamia va a entrar a cualquier momento, así que al final vamos a hacer un poco de preguntas o conversación con ella. Si alguien quiere preguntar también en español, yo puedo traducir la pregunta. Y bueno, solo para introducir a Lamia, ella es una artista visual que vive y trabaja en Beirut. Sus obras se han presentado en muchos museos y bienales internacionales, por ejemplo en la Bienal de Venecia, donde representó al Líbano en el año 2007, en el Centre Pompidou, en la Bienal de Estambul, la Bienal de Liverpool y el Museo Tate Modern. Y ella también es la cofundadora de Beirut Art Center, que directó del año 2009 hasta el 2014. Así que nada, os dejo con los 3 ensayos fílmicos. Okay, so Lamia has just arrived from Beirut, so thank you so much for being here today with us. I hope you had a nice trip. I haven't been able to ask you.
Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for attending and staying for the 3 films.
So I'm going to open to questions if anyone has some, but at a first thought, the first film that we watched, A Journey, I was just thinking that now it's 20 years since you made this film, which is quite some time.
Yeah, almost 19 years, yeah.
Yeah, so it really made me think about, looking back from now, and this year has been, has changed everything once again. So maybe I wanted to ask you, when you think back to the time in which you were making these films, how do you look at it from the point of view of today?
So I haven't looked back at this film for a long time, but it's always strange because reality catches you all the time. Like when I was making the film, the Israeli war attack happened. I had finished the film before. This is why I had to add the introduction. So there's always there's always an element that comes in the reality that transforms our perception. But in a sense, the core has not changed. For me, the core is this question of this elsewhere that is inaccessible because of the fragmentation of this region is still inaccessible today. The question of Palestine and this injustice that was done to its population is still unresolved and not resolved anytime soon, with genocide that is happening in Gaza and what's happening in the rest of Palestine. So this question of the impossibility of returning to the land for my grandmother is now dead, but other people like her who are from younger generation is really still a contemporary question. But for me, this film is not just about politics and my identity versus politics, but also this transmission through generation. So this is always universal. It can happen in other places as well. This relationship between a grandmother, a mother, and a daughter could be understood. So there are several elements. Some of them, of course, are historically obsolete now, but the core, I think, of the issues are still the question of the frontiers, the border, is even more relevant today.
Exactly. I thought actually watching them, I didn't really find anything obsolete. I found that it was even maybe even going back to a source or something that can also contextualize and finds a deeper something, when there's the kind of long scene of trying to find or trying to pick at the memory of what really happened, what kind of version versus what was published in media or what reached to a legal decision. I was thinking, it's also this process of uncovering. Somehow watching this film also felt like a process of uncovering something that's not always so now.
Yes, because I was uncovering myself, it wasn't filmed as a film in one shot or one shooting session. When I started filming my grandmother, it was for another project entitled Objects of War, related to the Lebanese wars, and which was civil, but not just civil. So I started in '99, and then I gathered archives and stories, and then I filmed my mother and filmed again my grandmother before she died. And then much later, years after, I decided that all these scenes, all these different stories could constitute like a spider web for a film. And it was very important for me. Also, the story of my uncle was this kind of like drama that changed my family, and it was important for me. So when I filmed them to try to understand and try to know the truth, I'm not filming with a crew of even 3 people. It's just me and a very amateur camera to be as discreet as possible, to really try to document. Today we document everything, but then I was not documenting everything, but a few things. And this camera was really this moment where I needed to document this important scene in my family. I wasn't sure it would ever be in a film, and when I made the film much later, I had to ask the authorization of everyone, and I had to ask my mother also if she was okay to show certain scenes of my grandmother. So some we left in the film, some we removed. There were a lot of questions. So this is why I was also uncovering in the process.
Yes.
Thank you for the movies, very, very moving.
Thank you.
I would like to ask you, as a protagonist in this long conflict, and also reading these days all these news about Palestine and the conflicts around Palestine also, is something that mentioned, one of, I think is I'm confused, is your mother or grandmother talking about your uncle going back to Iran or something? So what I wanted to ask is like, apparently all the Arab world was connected, like if we're a nation, it was in the Western times or after the Second World War, they divided frontiers, confront one with another. How you felt like living this long conflict, the hand of, or undercover hand, geopolitics with the Western in this, not like this Middle East, but all the Arab world or the Islamic world has been modified in these like 50 years.
It's a very complex question. Thank you for the question. It's a very complex question. I'm working on it now. Actually, the actual transformation, radical transformation of our region, I'm working now on it for the first time since 2017. Happened at the end of the Ottoman Empire and the beginning of the French and British mandate in the region. So during the end of World War I, this is when the Balfour Declaration happened, promising a Jewish home. This is when the French and the British divided the region with the Sykes-Picot Agreement and the peace conference that confirmed the division into zones of influence. So this region was really designed by colonial power. And throughout the decades that followed, these powers continued to operate. Today, we are at a shift, a new shift, a total transformation. It's one of the reasons why, for the past 10 years that this shift is being prepared, I am decided to look back at this moment because these two moments resonate. So the region could go into a total peace, but also transformation under other powers. So for now, most recently, American and Israel have a plan for the region, and they are. What happened, the war that happened in Lebanon that destroyed the entire South and part of South Lebanon, and the war, and what happened in Syria, which is amazing, the fall of the Assad dictatorial regime, which is amazing. All this is part of a redrawing of the region. We don't know what's going to happen. So it started even earlier than what you're describing. But what it is true that until a certain time you could travel, the time of my grandmother and my grandfather, she described, he went to Iran, which is not part of the Arab world, but is connected somehow as part of a larger expanded region. All this region was connected: Turkey, Iran, Iraq, of course Syria, Lebanon, Palestine. It's very, so they were working in this region, if one to say region at large, and traveling and doing business. Today, it's so fragmented because of the conflicts and the politics that you cannot go anywhere. You cannot even go inside Palestine from one place to the other. The Palestinians are not allowed to go from, I don't know, from Jerusalem or West Bank to Gaza or vice versa. They cannot circulate unless they have special, and we in Lebanon cannot go to Palestine or Israel because we're at war with Israel. We cannot, now we could go to Syria, but it's very complex. The relationship has evolved for the past decades because they were also occupying Lebanon. So we could go. Now they have implemented a few days ago a visa policy, but it's changing, it's in flux. So now we talk more politics and cinema, but this is to say that the politics of the region do affect our daily life and even the movement of our movements. And this is why, to go back to film, I wanted to reflect on a narrative that was also fragmented and not linear. in a way, like the region is fragmented, somehow the kind of telling a story has become fragmented, and for me it resonates with territory that is fragmented.
هلو أهلا فيكي. أنا كمان لبنانية وأختي معي هون كمان.
شرفنا.
Today we have a new president in Lebanon.
Yes.
So what do you think about this? I mean, I know what you said, that everything is fragmented. People are fragmented in their thoughts and lives. And I haven't been back to Lebanon. I mean, I came like 40 years ago, and I haven't been able to go back. And of course, we lost a lot of family and friends. But I'm always, you know, I have this hope to go back. Now, this new president, my friends say that he's going to be like a good choice. I don't know. But there's also something that really was interesting in the film. A few things I'm going to say. The sound, you know, the way you use the sound. I mean, you didn't use any noise related to bombs.
Yes.
Which is, but then we could see all the destruction. And I guess that maybe the thing of not hearing the bombs is more effective to see instead of to just listen, because it's like very common to the violent films and things. But this just watch destruction without hearing, I thought it was very interesting. And then on the other hand, that sense of, as you said, fragmentation. We are from the south of Lebanon, and our city or town, whatever, Nabati, has been destructed absolutely a few days ago, absolutely leveled. So, and there was this one of the films, you were driving to the south. We saw Saida and all that, right? And it was like new. You said it was like, you know, people from the south had to come to the north, and they were like tourists, or they didn't belong, or they felt different when they were received in different ways. And this was discussed a lot in different information and news and things. You know, I heard Lebanese opinions about it. They didn't want to be treated like tourists because we all belong to the whole of Lebanon. So it's interesting that you said we're going to to the south, and it's like being a tourist and all that.
Yes.
And please explain a little bit more, because some people don't know.
I'll
This
explain.
sense of fragmentation.
Yes, this needs to be contextualized a little
Thank
bit
you.
because first, I am very joyful today, and I have a lot of hope. It's the first time we have a president in 2 years. Everybody seems to, I mean, not everybody, but the majority of the people are behind him, although I wouldn't have liked to have a military power again, especially after the disastrous experience of the last one. And here I'm saying my own political opinions. But at this precise instant, after 2 months of war, with the countries that could be divided because of the division that happened, because not everybody is behind Hezbollah and this war, not everybody was... so the army creates a unity. In that sense, although I wouldn't be for the army, today, symbolically, he could make it, he could prevent a civil war or division, and he could also ensure that we recover our sovereignty up until the border in the south. This is very important, and he also has a certain reassuring, he's not against anybody, so he can rally all parties. So today there's a moment of hope. The first moment of hope started when the Bashar regime fell. Again, Bashar al-Assad did not only harm Syrians, but also Lebanese. He subjected Lebanese to assassination, humiliations, occupations, checkpoints, everything. For the film, the road to the south, actually in Nights and Days, reached the southern border. It's not just Saida, Nabatiye, Sur, it's way further south. All the villages that were destroyed in 2006 were destroyed again this time, even more. This time they destroyed on top of it Nabatiye, your town, and Sur, and villages that they had not destroyed in 2006. But not as much as today. Yeah, but not, I mean, today I feel like there were certain parts that were less bombarded, other parts that were more bombarded, from what I understood. I think we need a few months to have the exact scope of everything. But so my film goes till the border, in fact. And the reason why I used the term tourism was because I was in Beirut, an area that did not belong to the targeted area and did not belong to the south. For me, going to the south felt a little bit like being a tourist in my own country, in the sense that not being a southerner and going to uncover the devastation felt like, even this whole war made me feel in 2006 like because we were watching the war on our television. We could hear sometimes a bomb, but we were mainly watching it on television. This is what made me feel like a. This is why I use this word to kind of explain also that I was not. Even though at the beginning I had fears, those fears disappeared. The fear transformed into another kind of anxiety, into waiting for what would unfold. It's surprising to know that an area 20 years later is again destroyed. Yes, even before. Yes.
Day after day.
Yes, yes.
When I was a kid, I used to sleep with
Yeah.
shoes on because we had no refugee places to stay, so we had to run. So we always slept in my family with my shoes on because we had to run. So I mean, that part of the war is not told. I mean, it's not. There is no story about it. Like, I mean, I'm telling you because I lived there. And because I was bombarded thousands of times when the world didn't even know. When Beirut was really fine, you know, and the rest of Lebanon and the north of Lebanon, which is great. But, I mean, the south has always been bombarded. Always.
No, of course, yeah.
Night after night. Be it Christmas, be it Eid al-Adha, be it Ramadan. I mean, it was always. And that's why I told you that I've
There are a few filmmakers. I know a few filmmakers from the south that are now directing films related to the south. Not necessarily this war. It's too early, but that speak of the inhabitant of the south, the daily lives, the fears, the times of war, etc. And there were a few films made also, I think, in the 70s, related also to the Fidaiyin, but also the southern inhabitants.
Yeah.
Like, I think Maroun Bardadi did a film.
And many people think that Hezbollah has always been there.
No, no, of course not.
Not you and me, no. But everybody around here, when the war started, and I would, you know, talk with friends and that. Oh, it's your fault. It's Hezbollah. You are always this and that, right? And I would say no, but Hezbollah is something relatively new. I mean, in the the sense that Israel had bombarded
Yeah.
a long time before.
Well, actually, Hezbollah came because of the occupation and bombardment of. They were born after '82, after the occupation and the. Yeah.
The army, the Lebanese army, could not defend Lebanon. However,
Do you have? Does anybody have other questions? Because we're into politics now, and
I mean, I find this discussion also very interesting. So thank you for coming here. It's yeah, and well, I guess that I also wanted to lead into the work that you have in the biennial because well, this is also meant to be a film. This is another reason that Raisa and I wanted to show some of your previous films. So maybe you can speak about any updates or your thoughts on the current project.
the current project. So the current project is an adaptation or a feature. There's this idea of doing a feature film about the diary of a young Ottoman soldier, a Palestinian from Jerusalem, who was working as a clerk in the Ottoman army during World War I. And he wrote his diary in 1915, 1916. In his diary, he wrote about his hope, his fears during the war, the scarcity of food, of cigarette, and how he imagined Palestine. Of course, he has no idea of what will happen. And so I thought it was very much in resonance with our contemporary time, because when I read it, I tried to imagine a young person in his early 20s today, or in her early 20s today, and how the future seemed uncertain in our region, and what kind of hope and what kind of future they can imagine. And so I decided to write a script based on this manuscript. And I worked with Majd Kayal, a Palestinian writer. We've been developing, we developed a script for a feature film, which also plays with anachronistic time, something that I like to do, because I think I'm not always convinced about the linearity of time or narrative. So I like this idea that we can drift from a scene from 1916 to our contemporary times in one scene. And so, because of the complexity of the project, because of I wanted to film part of it through a team, not by going myself, but through a second team in Jerusalem, but also because of the kind of financing that it requires. It's gonna take maybe years. It might never happen, I don't know. In the meantime, I have met a producer recently, and we're working on shooting a short video based on the casting for the film. And the casting for the film would be a way to play certain scenes and read them, but while I will question the casting, the characters and the participant about their relationship to Jerusalem, in a similar manner to a journey. This idea of inaccessibility to a territory, this idea of fantasy of a territory that I had with Jerusalem, because my grandmother told me she could go from Beirut to Jerusalem in 7 hours. What about all these people who are second, third, fourth generation, who don't have access? For them, it's really a myth. So I think this short video would have a sociological approach, while at the same time it will be a way to rehearse and to find what I'm to search for what I'm looking for in this actor. to play the main role. And this, we hopefully will shoot it in the next months with very little means. So the feature film has a totally different production ecosystem and financing. So for the shorter film, as you could see in the 3 films I showed, this is a very, they really made with very little means, with handheld cameras, with personal archives. They're made with, you know, very, like, you know, roughly, with almost no team. So this one hopefully will be made with a proper team, but a very small team of maybe a person at the camera and a sound person and me. And the paintings in the show here are called background for a script, because when I was about to launch the production of this film I just told you about last year, when October 7 happened, I postponed the shooting of the film, and I decided to paint again, and I produced these paintings directly inspired by certain scenes from the film. And they were made between January 2024, between January and April.
Exactly, yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lamia,
Thank
and
you.
thank you, everyone.